We've got a snapping turtle loose in my backyard, and while my family members freak out, I've got one question on my mind. Can I catch it? So let me briefly explain kind of how we got into this whole scenario. I had just gotten done failing to catch a black racer snake out in the woods. So after this failure, I was pretty bummed and about to throw in the towel for the day. I was following the trail along the creek when I happened to notice movement out of the corner of my eye. Big movement. Now, as you guys know, I get pretty excited when I find any kind of reptiles here on the channel, but turtles, while technically fairly common, are pretty rarely seen where I live. Aquatic and semi-aquatic reptiles are usually discouraged from using this portion of the creek system because it's so close to where we keep our ducks and geese. They frequent this area and could be potential predators and problems for these reptiles. So I was pretty excited to see a turtle, especially a turtle of this size, hanging out this close to home. I decided to investigate. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for the shaky footage, but I'm climbing down a very steep, unstable embankment into the creek and the muddy shores on either side. See, this turtle, when I took notice of it, it seemed to notice that I took interest and it hid underneath the bank. But I knew that there wasn't any other waterways going underneath there, so it could not escape except by going past me. My thought was that I could head it off and potentially catch it and get a cool animal encounter for the day. Little did I know, this encounter was going to prove to be way more interesting than I could have ever imagined. As I'm walking through the creek, I'm thinking, I don't actually know very many turtles that get to that size, and I began to realize that I might be dealing with a snapping turtle. As you guys know, the first one that I ever caught in the wild was that juvenile one a few episodes ago. I've never actually interacted with an adult in the wild before, and at this point, I was on my own. It had been a simple exploration day, hoping to see if I can get some cool footage or B-roll, and I happened to stumble across a snake. When I failed to catch the snake, I kind of gave up for the day, and then here I was, chasing after a turtle that I really hadn't taken time to properly identify. Fortunately, I was able to see the turtle before it made any sudden moves. Underneath a tangle of roots and vines, I saw a reptilian face staring right back at me. Now at this point, I still hadn't identified what I was working with. I could tell the turtle was very large and that it didn't have a proper shell like most turtles. So I was about 80% sure it was a snapping turtle, but I wanted to get closer and kind of test the waters, unintended, to see what exactly I was working with and whether it was even feasible to catch it. I grabbed a nearby stick and poked around near the turtle's head to see if it would strike. Turns out, snapping turtles are fairly calm when they're underwater, and this guy was still trying to use the element of camouflage, hoping that maybe I just hadn't seen him. Rather than striking, he drew further into his shell and retreated further up against the bank of the creek. I set up temporary camp on the little sandbar nearby and decided that now was the time to go in. Normally on this channel, I encourage you guys to get up close and personal with wildlife. You know, get outside, find your adventure. Make sure to educate yourselves on the dangerous wildlife in your area and what kind of risks they pose and how to properly identify them. If you're in an area where you could possibly come across something that could pose harm, don't do what I did and approach alone. Have a buddy, someone who can help carry your gear, whatever, or at the very least provide support if something goes wrong. I set up my camera so it'd be stable, and I walked into the creek. Once again, I really had no experience dealing with snapping turtles. I knew theoretically how to hold them so that I wouldn't be injured, and I knew a little bit about their behavior, but I had never really physically interacted with a wild specimen. So this is all uncharted territory for me right here. I ran my hand on the carapace, the back of his shell. Once again, testing the waters. I wanted to see how this turtle is going to react. And once again, this turtle was completely non-aggressive at this point. Its only goal was to convince me that it was just a mossy rock so that I would go about my business and it could go about its. Seeing no aggression, I decided now is the time to make my catch. While I never recommend trying to handle a snapping turtle, if you're ever in a situation where you absolutely need to, maybe it's in the road and you want to save it from getting hit by a car, or it's causing some kind of problem, if you need to pick them up, there are two ways to do it. One is by the tail, which can damage their spines if you're not careful. The other way, which is what I did, is to grab underneath the back of the shell where the back legs are. You might get scratched up a little bit, but you won't be in range of their neck. So while you may take a few scratches, it's highly unlikely you lose a finger. As soon as I grabbed, the turtle's temperament changed drastically. Look at this thing attacking the water as I pick it up. That is the common snapping turtle, the mud dragon, whatever you want to call it, an absolute monster and the most dangerous thing that I have personally come in contact with in my entire life, and I had successfully captured it. Now the real challenge was, how am I going to get this thing up close for the cameras so I can get some up close shots and teach you a little bit about it. As dangerous as this sounds, I carried the turtle in one hand while carrying my camera gear and made the walk up the steep embankment. At the top of the hill, I left the turtle in this metal bucket just for a few minutes to go inside, wash my hands, and prepare myself to take some up-close shots. Little did I know that snapping turtles can climb. I came outside to a commotion. The birds were running, my parents were freaking out. The turtle was loose. Not only would I have to catch it once, I would have to catch it twice, or risk it or someone else getting injured. Thankfully, I was able to grab it before anything happened. And even though I did not get very many close-up shots, I was able to bring it back down to the creek system and release it. Now, this story could have gone very, very wrong. Had I not been incredibly cautious and had some background knowledge on how to handle these turtles, myself or others could have been seriously injured. The moral of the story, don't approach dangerous wildlife on your own. While this channel is all about finding backyard adventures on your own, learn to know and recognize danger when you see it. And if you absolutely have to approach it, make sure you have a buddy nearby in case something goes wrong. I was incredibly lucky that no one got hurt, including the turtle, in the course of getting this incredible encounter. This turtle was probably just hunting the fish that inhabit this creek system, going about his day eating some fish, when this giant human came and picked him up. Despite popular belief, dangerous animals like this are not out to get you. As you can see, this guy did no aggressive displays until I'd actually physically picked him up. That being said, guys, make sure to use caution when you're out exploring your backyards. If you don't know what you're dealing with, make sure you have a buddy nearby just in case. That being said, this is a fascinating encounter, and I don't regret that I had it, because it taught me some valuable lessons that I will take in my future exploration. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for following this series as Season 1 comes to a close. What was your favorite animal encounter in Can I Catch It Season 1? Leave that in the comments below. There's a lot of new content coming on this channel, so make sure to stay tuned. But until I see you again, don't forget to get outside and find your own adventure.